In the end, reaching the goals within an organization is a function of the employees' capacity to actually work on the projects they need to work on, so that they make sure that once you start, you go along and you can check in, and in the end, the result is delivered as it was expected. When the strategy work was done right, all the goals are actually interlinking and you reach the annual goals. Now, delegation is one of the key functions in order to make sure that everybody who gets a task to do understands it, accepts it, and develops a proper strategy in order to make sure that they reach it. And delegation is also the thing that we see going wrong the most. This is where the typical fuck-ups really happen. Now, let's look into a few segments of how delegation is going wrong in order to understand what we need to get right in order to really delegate in a way that people perform and actually deliver the results in the end, and that we as leaders can sleep peacefully at night knowing that we will be on the way of actually reaching the results. So let's have a look at a few concerns that we typically see, and then later on talk about what's behind it and how we can set up a process that the delegation actually goes right. Now, one of the typical concerns is nobody does it properly anyway. I am the one who needs to do it. If I delegate it to somebody, it's never done properly, and managers tend to do things themselves then and keep important things on their desk. Another thing is, by the time I've explained it to someone, I've done it myself. So this is the idea of, before I explain it, let's quickly get it over with, and then we're done, and it's the same time investment. But it's easier and more reliable. Another one is, no one knows how to do it but me. I am the expert, and even though there might be some cases where it's maybe right, this is, anyway, it's not a reason to not delegate. It's another question emerging here, but typically that kind of thinking holds you back from really delegating things into the team. Another typical concern that we're seeing is there is no one I can give the task to. Everybody in my team is busy, and they are so busy, I don't know who could get it, and I don't know who could make it. And this is also something when we need to really look into it and understand if that's actually a reason not to delegate. Also, my employees are already working at the limit of their capacity. I can't put more of them. So while this one here was, I don't have anybody who can do it, the other one is, they are anyways way too busy, no capacity there. And then as the next one we have, the staff don't want to take responsibility at all. Now, these are a few typical things that we see emerging as thought patterns in managers that hold them back in terms of delegation. And this leads to a few ways on how we deal with delegation mentally, and runs us into errors that actually fuck up our delegation quite badly. And one of the errors that I want to show you in this video is the dysfunctional symbiosis. And I have an extreme example where we see it happening all over the place. So let's imagine we have a setting with one manager and one employee. And both are in a collaboration where the leader would love to get employee to do some things in order to have less on their agenda themselves. Now, at one day, the leader has something very important, but it's also very urgent, and he's under time pressure. And he gets something back from the employee and is dissatisfied. He even shouts at him. So in this example, we had the manager getting really angry, getting really aggressive. Now, that led to the employee realizing, oh, the boss is shouting at me. I'd rather do things quickly now. Now, the employee runs along and tries to fix it somehow how the manager wants to have it. Now, the leader learns, well, if I just shout a little bit longer and a little bit louder, then the employee is doing it very quick. And this is not an employee who's having any kind of efficacy and doing the things themselves, but I need to push them through shouting. The employee learns, well, if I go fast, my boss stops shouting because then he's happy. Now, the leader shouts extra loud because he has something very extra urgent to do. And now the employee knows, well, I need to do it extra fast now because he's shouting extra loud. And in the end, the leader is very satisfied. He thinks the employee is an idiot. He always needs to shout at him, and he's not doing his thing properly anyways. And he's having no internal drive whatsoever. I always need to shout at him. And the manager, the employee goes like, well, I know exactly what the game is. I just need to listen how loud my boss shouts, and then I know how quickly I need to work, and otherwise I have an easy time doing my standard things. So if we look at that kind of an example, what happened here is that a chain reaction of interactions led to certain beliefs. And that belief was, well, that employee has no internal drive whatsoever, so he doesn't want to take responsibility. I always see him failing. I always need to shout for making sure that that one is actually getting better at things. Now, this is one example how those kind of beliefs develop and how those beliefs also stop us in delegating. However, this leads us into a specific problem on how we handle things. And this problem I want to show you in the next video in order to understand what holds us back in terms of delegating right, and also then to learn how can we do it right in the future.